to see you all join us. I know that James really might not make it. I'm not sure about Mr. Brown.
Mr. Chair, did you get the message that Mr. Vice Chair would be late?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we discussed that. His recommendation, and I mean, he was driving back from dropping his daughter off at college.
Right.
Was that he postponed his section of community relations till next week, and so I think you leave it independent of the show.
Bill, your audio is breaking up some. I don't know if there's a issue with your microphone or.
It's my normal microphone. Is that all right?
That's better.
I just speak up, I guess. Okay, I suppose we could get other folks join. August. Does anyone have any? Oh, does anyone have any announcements? And I also put down shout outs, and I certainly want to shout out folks who are the souls of the establishing.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, am I audible now?
It's coming in and out. Most of it you can't necessarily hear.
Let me, I'll leave and come back, see what happens.
Sure.
Hi, Pam.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Any better?
Yes, sir.
Somebody's saying no. I don't know. Should I just speak up?
It seemed to be straightforward on this time.
It seems better.
Okay. All right. I will definitely speak clearly and slowly. Our first item on the agenda would be the approval of the minutes from our hearing of our pre-hearing conference. Is there a motion to approve? Oh, Council, your hands is up.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just want to make a clarification that right there you have the July minutes. I owe you the June minutes, and I'll give those to you at the next meeting.
Fine, no problem. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the hearing conference?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Ms. Aguilar?
Member Brown?
Yes.
Member Carpenter?
Yes.
Member Cooper?
Yes.
Member Frazier?
Yes.
Member Gilmore? Member Watson and Chair Mendes?
Yes. So the minutes are approved. We'll have two sets of minutes next time. Now, the next item is approval of the agenda. And James had asked that we move item 7 to to space 9 to accommodate him when he arrives today. I think that's entirely reasonable. Also, I have a question for the executive director. Consul, in your report, you're going to talk about the Vogel case. Are we going to address your resolution, you think? Or do we need a separate?
Sir, I'm getting a really bad copy on your audio, but I think you asked if you were going to address a resolution.
Yeah, the resolution that you put together about Vogel case.
Yeah, so I didn't put a resolution. I made a recommendation that you accept the neutral evaluation that was accepted by the parties, but there is, I believe, a draft of a resolution if you want to vote on that. That would be a motion by one of the board members.
Mr. Chair, are you referencing the written language that was presented?
In my inbox, there is a document called Resolution on the Careless Civilian Oversight Board, dismissing review requests. And I don't know whether the rest of the board.
I don't have that.
So I think the idea is that we can discuss that during the executive director's report, and we can vote on it if we decide to do so at that point. Any objections? Anyone hear me? So
I don't have any objection.
No.
all right, I got a message from Pam about that we still don't really have the approval of content. Whose approval are we waiting for?
Mr. Chair, I believe the resolution was circulated between a couple of parties today, but it has not been, I don't believe all sets of eyes were on it in terms of final content. I believe Ms. Hudson put a draft out. There had been another draft circulated. Is that the resolution you're referring to?
Yes. And
All right. It certainly is the board's prerogative to vote to approve that, but I believe the discussion was that was not going to be finalized tonight, but it certainly is the board's prerogative to do so.
what I would suggest, and I'm open to other suggestions, is that when the time comes, I or the executive director can read the text and share the text of that resolution, because it looks very good. It looks fine. Well, and then unless there is any objection from the board, I won't speak to the vote. We can wait.
And just to clarify, Sir Chair, if it is the board's desire, you certainly can read it, and if the board can have consensus and vote on it, that is certainly well within your rights. But I didn't want you to believe that we sent it in ready to go, that we were suggesting that you needed to make that vote tonight.
Bellamy?
Yes, for Mr. Berry, are there major issues with it being, I guess, discussed or read tonight?
Yeah, all
No,
minutes,
there are none.
all that it says is, it basically, the most important thing it does ratifies the board's agreement that we have gone along with the independent resolution, and it releases Mr. Creasy from his duty as superior. But like I say, let's talk about that later. I have heard that the only amendment to the minutes that I've heard is to move item 7 to 9. Would someone like to
Move. So move.
Second.
Okay. Motion to amend the agenda. Member Brown,
Yes.
Member Carpenter,
I'm not really sure what I'm voting on because I'm not having a good time hearing what Bill is talking about. But if it's an amendment, a motion to amend the agenda, I vote in favor of it.
Yes.
yes,
Do my
there was a
best.
motion to amend the item number, swap item number 7 with number 8.
Number 9,
number
Mr.
9.
ED, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move the items around. That's fine. Yes.
Member Cooper,
Yes.
Member Frazier,
Yes.
and Chair Mendez.
Yes. All right, I believe it is time for us to poll the attendees. There will be a second comment period at the end of the meeting. Council, with that.
One moment, sir. Looking for my magic script. 1 second, please. Oh, sorry. I have a few windows open. I just had the script. All right. Here we go. Thank you, Chair Mendez. If you'd like to speak to the PCOB, the floor is now available. Please click the raise hand icon in the Zoom webinar. If you are joining us via telephone, press *9. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes. Please share your place of residence when you begin. Mr. Chair, I don't see anybody raising their hands at this moment.
All right. And I suppose we can move on. The next item on the agenda here is a good cause extension request from Teresa Hepler on behalf of a complainant. This letter, this request, has been circulated to the board, so you should be familiar with it. And I just took a pile of stuff off my computer, so maybe I sound better. I don't know. Anyway, so if anyone feels strongly about this request, please feel free to make a motion. Otherwise, we can sit and decide if we go on. Anyone thought about it to that degree.
Mr. Chair, was Ms. Hepler going to address the board about this request?
I do not see any reason why we can't do that.
I didn't know if that was presumed or whether that was her wish. I mean, it would be helpful to me after reading the letter just to get a summary from her as
She
to.
she is in attendance. So
Okay.
if she wants to speak for this, I believe we could recognize her. There she is.
Hey, Chair Mendez, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is a summary might be helpful.
Please.
Okay. Yeah, you go. You're the expert.
Okay, so first, I just wanted to clarify that there are 3 complaints, only one of which we are requesting a review request for that falls outside of the limitations period. The reason I asked for a review request for that one as well is because it involves the same 2 officers, really, even though the complaint is only against one. The other officer that is involved in the other complaints does kind of make an appearance in. So it's, in my mind, it is a chain of occurrences that my client has had these interactions with these police officers, and all of it is relevant in my mind because it's going to shape how the officers may treat her as these occurrences. And specifically for the complaint that falls outside of the limitations period, we are asking the Oversight Board to determine what the Charlottesville Police Department did to ensure that the warrant situation explained in the review request does not happen again, because my client did not get any information about that when she received the closure letter, and to investigate why the officer looked up her name in the first place when checking the warrant status. That was unclear.
Well, thank you. Yeah, honestly, Jeff, you're muted.
Ms. Hepler, it wasn't clear to me where things stand. Is this going to result in a referral to us?
So right now, all 3 of these have already been investigated by the Charlottesville Sheriff's Department. So I think at this point, where we stand, the option available is a review request of the complaints. And also we've requested review of the policies and procedures about various items as noted in the review request.
Right. I guess, Mr. Chair, I'm confused as to, given where this stands and it's not before us, do we have the authority to rule on this?
We have the authority under the 2021 ordinance to extend the deadlines beyond 75 days for good reason.
Okay.
I checked, so we definitely do.
Great.
And as Ms. Hepler said, that only applies to one of the 3 complaints.
Yeah.
I
mean, my inclination is to enter a motion to approve her request. I don't see that there's a problem with that. From speaking for myself.
Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second it.
Any more discussion before we vote?
I don't know if Ms. Hepler had any other things she wanted us to hear from her or from Ms. Ross.
I don't have anything specifically to add to the review request. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
Council, I guess you can pull the board.
Sure. And the motion, as I understand it, is to approve the good cause request by the complainant. Okay. Member Brown,
Yes.
Member Carpenter,
Yes.
Member Cooper,
Yes.
Member Frazier,
Yes.
Chair Mendez.
Yes.
Okay.
So it sounds like the motion carries unanimously. If I could make it, I hope with not an extraneous remark. I think you should keep in mind, I would ask the executive director to keep in mind the alternative independent evaluation if that is excluded to parties. Just
I'm sorry, sir. I did not hear.
You're breaking up again, Bill.
Is it
I'm
possible
sorry,
that you
yeah.
can call in to the meeting?
no, I'm yeah, I think so. But the point I was making was that I thought that your independent resolution idea for Fogel would be perhaps an interesting conception to be applied to. Period. Let me see if I can find the phone numbers.
For benefit of the public, we're waiting momentarily while Chair Mendez calls in the Zoom webinar number.
Hansel, can I ask a question while we're waiting on that?
Sure.
We're not in any violation of any open meeting laws by having this, audio issue for the last 30 minutes or anything. I just wanted to make sure that, that we are fine with what's been happening with that audio.
Ms. O'Barry, do you want to address it?
Yes, I don't believe we're in any violation. The everything that has been communicated in the meeting and heard by this group has also been heard by the public or not heard by the public. So there's no proceedings or no discussions that were heard by us but not heard by the public. I believe the public is hearing the same thing that this group is hearing. So there's there's no violation there.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, I have to say I haven't been hearing the same thing because the audio has gone in and out, and I've just kind of relied on Mr. Aguilar to kind of relate what's going on when it's time for a vote. But some of the other information has been just hard to hear, and I'm not the only one on the panel. I just wanted to make sure that we are within standards compliance for that. Thank you for your answer. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. And I think the only problem would be if all of those in attendance, at least the board members could hear, but the public could not hear. then that would be information that would be being kept from the public. So I think as long as the public is having the same problems hearing that we are all having, then we're all getting the same information or not getting the same information, which does not create any problems.
Working on it. I am not quite how to unmute myself.
I believe you pressed *9, sir.
I don't know.
Oh, that raised your hand.
Yeah. Let me see.
There it is.
Are you able to talk, sir?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, he would yes, have to mute one of them. There it is.
That should do it, I think.
Okay. Good.
Okay, good. Let's see what's next on our agenda. Pardon the interruption here. So we have moved the outreach committee report down. So the next item of business.
So the next item of business
is the executive director's report.
Okay, thank you, sir. So the questions you were asking regarding the pending case in Fogel, since the last meeting, since the scheduled hearing meeting, which was in July 14th, the parties have agreed to engage in alternative dispute resolution. There was some discussions and concerns about what alternative dispute resolutions can be done at this juncture because the operating procedures have not been passed and it doesn't spell it out in the ordinance what exactly can be done. To try to resolve the concerns expressed by the complainant, I submitted a proposal for a neutral evaluation to the parties. The neutral evaluation would allow me to review this case under the same elements of review that you would do, thoroughness, completeness, impartiality. And I presented that neutral evaluation to the parties. They both reviewed it and have accepted it. So I sent that recommendation to the chair and vice chair that considering that the parties are in agreement to allow me to conduct a neutral evaluation, that the board at this juncture, they should consider accepting this neutral evaluation agreement between the parties, and they should allow me to do this neutral evaluation and also notify the hearing examiner that his services for a alternative dispute resolution and for a hearing are no longer required at this juncture.
And we have received a draft resolution from council, which I think is quite good. And can we share that with the, maybe put it on the screen, Hansel?
Sure, I can get that for you.
Mr. Chair, do we have to, as a board, approve this going forward with this plan?
If council has recommended, yes, that we should vote on it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Ms. O'Berry, was it in an attachment? I know that you sent it via email. I'm just trying to see if it was an attachment or not.
Referring to the resolution or
Yes, ma'am.
the agreement?
I believe the chair wanted the resolution read, or?
Um, I have that. I can see if I can forward that to you, Hansel.
Thank you.
I have it right here on my screen.
I think I beat you to it.
Okay.
So you can see
Mr.
here. Yes.
Can you expand your
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Here we go. There you are.
okay.
Can you see the whole thing now?
I mean, you'll have to scroll down, but this up here where the share is, does that maximize your screen at the top right by the X? Or is that the
I'm
max?
sorry.
It's fine. It's fine.
I
We can
think-
just read.
Just scroll if you would, Bill.
One second.
Sorry, Bill.
There you go. That's about as big as I can get it now.
Okay.
So the whereases simply state the facts that the parties have accepted the alternative resolution, and the now therefore is simply stating that the board is that the complaint is dismissed, and that the executive director shall issue a copy to the parties and to the hearing examiner.
And Mr. Chair, will the outcome of this with the executive director be binding on all parties?
Well, the parties have already signed agreements to, as I understand it, Hansel, parties have already signed the agreements to the alternative evaluation.
Is that your understanding, Ms. O'Berry?
Just one moment. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, I've reviewed the neutral evaluation agreement that Hansel sent earlier. All parties have signed off on that. So
Great.
just by the resolution simply codifies that the board accepts the neutral evaluation agreement.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
And Sir Chair, I believe the only thing that needs to be done if it is the prerogative of the board to authorize this, is that the Charlottesville resolution conventions, the be it ordained by, that language needs to be added to it in order to make it an official action of the board. But that's just a Scrivener's matter that we could certainly take up if the board approves this language.
Okay, so we can approve it and then it'll be reformatted, but there will be no substantive changes.
No substantive changes whatsoever, just the procedural language at the bottom.
So as I understand it, basically to adopt it, one of the members of the board has to move the resolution, basically make a motion.
I make a motion to adopt.
Second?
A second.
All right. Hansel?
Member Brown,
Yes.
Member Carpenter,
Yes.
Member Cooper,
Yes.
Member Frazier,
Yes.
Member Chair Mendez,
Yes. Okay, well, good, thank you. So now that we have adopted the alternative evaluation, and I'm very pleased with that.
And Mr. Chair, is this
yes.
a document that would be applicable down the road in similar cases, or does this just apply to Mr. Fogel's case?
Well, what I'm in the process right now is talking with the city attorney and with our independent counsel about forms of alternative dispute resolution. My inclination is yes, it would be, or something very close to it.
Okay.
But it's certainly not official.
Mr. Chair, I think the language in there at the end with prejudice typically means that that's done. It's not coming back. And I think when you're talking about future cases, that has to be ad hoc. I mean, sure, the language can be generalized, but when you're talking about with or without prejudice, that's going to be on an ad hoc basis. So,
yeah, no, yeah, you're right. That good catch. I agree.
Yep. Well, I want to thank Mr. Aguilar for and the other parties involved for coming up with this. It sure streamlines things and saves us a lot of work, and I think offers a positive potential for an outcome satisfying to everybody. So thank you.
well, I think it's. I mean, also to piggyback on that. I mean, this again, that with prejudice means it's not coming back whatsoever. That's
Right.
I mean, that's accepted. That's done. That's off the table. So whatever outcome is going to be whatever outcome is.
Yep.
Yeah, the outcome, as I understand it, is that Hansel will write a report, and Mr. Fogel will get a chance to write a response, and both of those documents will be published, and that's it. So, you're going to present the interns, Hansel? Oh, you got your hand up too, I noticed.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to just raise a point to Member Fraser's comment about alternative ways to resolve matters. One of the things for consideration of the board is that the board is not required to have hearings. So you, at some point, you can make a decision by reviewing a case whether you want to have a hearing or not. So that's something for you certainly to reconsider. I'm not sure that the current operating procedures as presented created a mechanism by which you would potentially review a case without hearing it, but that's something for you to consider, that you're not required by the ordinance to have hearings. You have to review them, but you don't have to have a hearing. So
Thank you. Good to know.
and thank you, sir. I'm going to, at this point, introduce our interns. This was our first cohort of interns. They were both available full-time, and we really appreciated the work that they did. And I wanted to provide to them a space where they can showcase the work that they did, and also to, if you have any questions that you may have about the projects that they were working on. So we had two interns this summer, Ms. Gabrielle Carr and Mr. Jeremiah DeMaro, and Ms. Gabby. She's going to go ahead and kick us off with the presentations of the work that was done this summer.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle Carr. You can't see me right now. I'm having some internet issues, so I'm just keeping my camera off. But I did want to ask Executive Director, am I sharing my screen? You're muted.
Sorry, you're not sharing your screen at this time.
Okay. So I'm just going to talk to you guys about some of the things that I've been doing this summer. So I was building a library for you guys to have access to, which I think for some of you, I may have given you a walkthrough of that library that I built. But pretty much I have been collecting and researching a lot of information, collecting a lot of data, so that you guys will have things at your fingertips. Within that library is database. So you'll have access to a lot of cases by venue that you would need for referencing. There's some guides and some booklets that I know the executive director wanted to add to the library that would be pertinent for you guys to have access to, that we also uploaded. Some videos with Letsy and Nicole, which I know some of you had training for already, and some other things that were uploaded, like the orders and SOPs from the Charlottesville Police Department, and the city ordinances, and then also just some links for you guys to have access to the Constitution, and more stuff like that. But it was basically, the library was built for a lot of reasons, but one of them being to streamline a lot of the information that you have access to, and that's pretty much what I've been doing this summer, was gathering all that information and putting it all in one place.
And Jeremiah, can you give us a walkthrough of the website that Gabby was working on? Do you have the link there or no?
Sorry, I was muted. Do you want me to go to the portal or
Go
the
website, the SharePoint that Gabby was working
Oh
on.
yeah,
was
okay,
describing.
got it.
Yep. And that's Gabby for you, the picture here, and Jeremiah.
Can you see that?
Yes. So this is what Gabby was describing to you. If you haven't had a chance to have a walkthrough with either Gabby or Jeremiah, please get in touch with me. Gabby's last day is tomorrow, but Jeremiah will be around for an extra week. If you can't get him, then I'm more than happy to walk you through it. But this was tremendous work that Gabby did this summer. Hopefully it could be a model for the other boards and commissions. What the project here was to try to house all this information for you whenever you have to engage in your work. If you could look at the police misconduct complaints investigation manual, Jeremiah. Once we start getting into the weeds of investigations, this would be a good reference for you as you review my work. This is what I'll be using as a guide among other resources available out there. So you have the entire book available for your reference. Go ahead and keep scrolling down, Jeremiah. There's also a guide on mediation, which is right now sort of point of contention. We have operationalization or an issue with the definition of what mediation is, which needs to get flushed out between the city council. Really needs to identify what kind of mediation program they want. One philosophy is that the subject officer doesn't participate, and another is that the subject officers do participate. So we have to consider what that actually looks like in this city. If you could go down, Jeremiah. Go to the video.
Mr. Director, where do we find this library? I mean, where is it?
This is, you can access it through Microsoft Teams. So
Teams, okay.
Yeah, you already have access through there. And again, I can walk you through it, or Jeremiah or Gabby before she leaves. But we uploaded the FLETC videos there for your reference, and this is a live library, so we'll keep updating references and information resources for you. We'll also try to upload the videos that you already had by NACO, and also videos from the NACO YouTube are going to be there as well, and other resources if we identified them. But that's just a brief overview of that. Again, if you have any questions about that, we're more than happy to answer that for you. And we're going to hold off. If you have any specific questions about that, if you could just write them down and hold off so we can let Jeremiah go, and then we'll ask both of them questions. But Jeremiah, you go ahead and take it from here.
Okay. So my name is Jeremiah Demaro, and this summer I've been doing more along the lines of public relations work for the board. So my official title was public relations assistant. I'll get more into what exactly I did on the next page, but here are some bullet points of some of the main things I did. One place that Gabby and I went during our time this past summer was to a conference at George Mason about criminal justice reform and police oversight and a whole host of other issues involving using data for police oversight and the relationship between policing and mental health and other similar issues. And then next for me is that I just accepted a job offer to work for Prince William County as a partner. And so to kind of do an overview of everything I did, the first thing I really worked on was putting together these pamphlets and also a single pager flyer / mailer about like what are the board's powers, what are their duties, really breaking down what the board can and can't do, and making it more accessible to the public. And I'll show you some screenshots from that in just a minute. And then another thing I worked on, what Mr. Aguilar was developing a survey. So we put together a bunch of different questions, some of which I'll show you in just a moment, that we hope to be able to put out into the community, get people's thoughts on what they think about policing in Charlotte, so they know what the board is, and also mapping it out by neighborhood. And I did participate in an evening ride along with a Charlottesville police officer just to get to know what it's actually like on the ground. And as I mentioned before, we attended that symposium at George Mason. And I also worked on migrating some police department complaint data from the past 3 years into spreadsheet format so that can eventually be uploaded into the board's recently launched portal. And all that data will be available to the public when that happens. And something that I'm still working on is putting together a newsletter template for the board so they can use that to communicate with the public in the future on a time frame that's up to them, of course, whether they want to do it monthly or bi-monthly, just to let people know when their next meeting is, like what cases they're looking at, is there a hearing coming up, etc. And of course, recently there's a big press release that the board put out about the launch of the portal, and also officer interaction cards that police officers will now be carrying in the city. So that's something I helped Mr. Aguilar with. And I also helped do some coordination and setup for the Soul Seagull Festival, which a couple of board members were present at this past weekend. That was a successful event. We handed out quite a bit of literature and talked to a lot of people. And then the last thing relating to the portal again is putting together some educational videos on the significance of the portal, with the portal's founder, and then also just doing a very straightforward how-to video for how members of the public can actually use the portal. And I won't go into each one of these into too much detail, but here's the cover of each pamphlet I did. So let me go back. There's a pamphlet that just does a very quick overview of the board, and there's one on the mediation program, one on the review process, one on the board's power to conduct investigations, and then one that gets into the executive director's role in terms of auditing and monitoring. And these are just a few of the most important pages that I pulled out. How to send and file a complaint, going into the mediation process, how do hearings work, what is an investigation, what can the board investigate, what can it not investigate, and then again, differentiating between auditing versus monitoring. And as I said, there was the press release that recently came out that I worked on, and here are some pictures that Mr. Aguilar took actually this past weekend at the Soul Seagull Festival. We have board member Watson down here on the bottom, and then board member Frazier up here on top, talking to people at the festival. And here's also some of the pamphlets on the bottom and some other merchandise that we were able to hand out. And for the survey analysis, I won't go into too much detail about this for the sake of time. But if you just wanted to see some of the sample questions that we've been toying with, A lot of it comes from existing surveys done by the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Justice Statistics from the American Crime Survey, just to gauge what people think about policing in the community. But also we kind of workshop these to make it more specific to Charlottesville, asking or eventually hoping to ask, do people know what the board is? What are the thoughts on the board? Do they know how to file a complaint if they have an issue? And do you feel confident in knowing your knowledge or confident in your knowledge of universal constitutional rights if you have an encounter with law enforcement personnel? And then the last thing I already mentioned this about making these portal education videos. So once we get the details worked out for how to put together these videos, they will be uploaded to these portals FAQ page, so members of the public will be able to access them, and we'll walk them through how to use the portal and how to make use of each of the portal's various features. Yeah, that's everything from me.
Thank you, Jeremy. And if you have any questions for the interns, please feel to ask them any questions. At this time, if not, then I could continue with my reporting. But
I just like to thank Gabrielle and Jeremy for their what has clearly been a lot of hard work this summer, or this spring, or summer, or whatever. Thanks a lot.
Second that.
Okay, thank you. I'll continue on with my reporting. Let's see. I gotta share my screen now. Okay, so the next part of my reporting is the complaints and complement statuses. Can you see my screen at this time? Okay, so for and then another important thing, although we launched the well, and I'll talk about that a little bit shortly, but these are the complaints that you received since last meeting. So we have 3 initial complaints that were received. One was regarding an allegation of harassment through a ticket. The individual that filed the complaint felt that she received a bad ticket and it was part of harassing behavior by the officers. The second complaint that we received, and that was in June 10th, the second complaint we received since your last meeting was June 22nd. And that was a rather unusual complaint. There was a allegation of conduct unbecoming, where the complainant was alleging that the subject officer was engaging in some impropriety and some improper relationship with his wife. There was allegations of adultery or sentiments that there may be some adultery between the complainant's wife and the subject officer. The other third complaint, the initial complaint that you received, is an allegation of lack of service. Specifically, there was an untimely service of protection order that the complainant filed and was able to secure a protective order, but it was not served by the police department in a timely manner. So those investigations are being conducted right now by the police department. Regarding the review request that you already voted on, that's the only review request that you have received. And that would be the third review request during my time here. So the one, Mr. Fogel, that's pending. There's another one that you received later in 2021. And now this third one that has 3 separate closure letters that you have received. We received various inquiries at the Solo Seville festival from community members, and they engaged directly with me and member Frazier and member Watson. The complaints portal, as we mentioned, it's live now, and we actually received 2 compliments through the portal, and I'll show you what that looks like in terms of the data that's being reported out. So in the complaint portal, this is what the community members will be able to see. They'll have the options to file the compliment. they'll be able to file the complaint, request a review after receiving internal affairs investigation, or to submit a recommendation to improve the services of the department, the police department, or the board. The frequently asked questions section that Jeremiah was talking that we're going to upload, it'll be over here. This is where we're going to have more specific information about how to navigate this portal. So that's a common project. But right now we received two compliments have been received through the system since it was launched, and that data is immediately available for community members. So right here you can see two of them. You just would filter the years. And then we have two complaints, which you can go back to 2015. The same will be done for the for the complaints. Right now, we have not done the data migration, so that is showing 0. But we do have data of the complaints that were received or sent to the board, and those would be migrated into the data. It is important for the board members and community members at large to know that there's still going to have to be some data reconciliation, because we're only in this data portal, we're only going to be showing the complaints that were received or sent to the board. There are complainants that can request only the CPD to review those, and those aren't sent to us, but they are reported by CPD. So at some point, we're going to have to reconcile all the data to publicly report all of it. But we'll be able to, at least in real time, be able, the community members can see how many compliments and complaints we're receiving through our portal. The contact cards Jeremiah mentioned, those will they're going to be delivered to the police department. We do have them in hand, and essentially they provide the information about how to file a complaint. They are, I don't think that this is a big enough, might be a little bit blurry on this end, but essentially they have some information where community members can write the name of the officer, the reason for the encounter, the date of the encounter, and any report member, any report numbers that might be associated with that encounter. It has the police department's internal affairs information there, and also the board's contact information. And then the back end on the blue side, you have the direct link to file the complaint or the kudos through the police department, and a QR code that will take you to our portal. And all the officers are going to be equipped with that, with those cards, and can request them to the patrol officers. I wanted to stop at right now if you have any questions about those initiatives at this point.
I just say I'm really excited about the coming online of civil, and you say uploading the data and looking at time series. Oh my gosh, that's that's what I like. So again, lots of thanks to the people who've been doing that.
Thank you for the comment. And another thing that Jeremiah mentioned in his presentation is the survey that we're planning to deploy. We wanted to let the community know about it. We're still a few, I would say probably a few months realistically away from that. We still have to validate the questions, although they have been selected from surveys that have gone through a rigorous scientific process, but we still want to make sure that when we deploy it, it's going to be in a proper way, and that we have thought through all the ins and outs of the different methodologies that we can use. I did want to also just give you a quick update on the budget to actual. So we just started a new fiscal year in July, and we have about 90% of our budget still available. So that currently the costs that we had were mostly the salary and benefits for the staff, and also for interns. But we have begun the new fiscal year, so just want to make sure that you're aware of that.
I just had a quick question about the cards. So are the cards like a is it a mandate that they're supposed to carry them around, or is it just like is it volunteer?
So we ordered enough cards for the officers to have. There's really no reason that they shouldn't have them. The officers are already required under general orders to provide their information if a community member requested. We have seen in other communities where some of the officers could be dismissive, and I'm not saying necessarily here, but where a community member might request a badge number and a name, and the officer may just say, you could look at my badge right there, or just point to it. And we want to avoid those kind of interactions, and that's why we have these tools available for both the community members and the officers.
Okay, just wanted to double
Hansel.
check. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't sound like it's a mandate. That just sounds like it's voluntary. And if they want to do it, they'll do it. And if not, they won't.
Yeah, so that's right now, there's no general order that says that they have to carry these cards. That's not what this was about. This was about facilitating the process for a community member to have the information written down and the direct information. But right now, it would not be a violation if an officer did not have it, but they definitely, if a community member asks for their information, regardless of a card or not, they should be provided to the community member.
And how would a community member know that these interaction cards are available if they're getting a little bit of pushback from an officer, which, you know, you say you don't necessarily think it'll happen, but just in case it does happen, how do they know?
So that's where the community education piece, we have the press release, and then we have to do continued outreach to make sure community members know about this. But again, even if the officer doesn't have the card and they're saying, hey, I need your badge number, there's no reason why they should not be providing that information. It's already required under general orders to identify themselves when asked by community members. I believe I've covered everything under my items. I don't know if the chair or anybody else has any other questions or concerns.
Well, it looks like James has arrived just in time. Are you ready to fill us in on outreach committee issues?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of circle back though and ask Hansel, you said that there was a couple of compliments in the portal. I think you might have said that.
Yes, we received 2 compliments since we launched it. I'm sorry, that was part of my report, and I didn't mention it. So one of the compliments, and I'll share the screen again. And another thing that I would need a little bit guidance from you, from the board members. It isn't abundantly clear how the reporting of these compliments will be. The complaints, I have adopted the method that you have, where I give you a synopsis. So I was going to replicate that for the compliments, but under your ordinance there, you can highlight any officers for exceptional service. So that's why we have that option available for community members to submit compliments. But so far, the ones that we received, one was of general nature, expressing satisfaction with the police department. It states, my experience of the Charlottesville police in every interaction over 15 years. I have great trepidation about how the CRB will prevent CVille from hiring great staff. So far, those on the committee seem to come from an extreme position rather than working to support police and the community in a healthier dynamic. So this is actually, it was part of a compliment, but also it could have gone under recommendations, and they could have submitted any general concerns there, but they did click all the boxes for a compliment. But there was another compliment that was received that was more specific, and it named the officer, and it indicated that this officer knows his town and the people in it. He treads gently. I saw him dealing with restraint and a sense of humor with a frequent flyer sleeping drunk in the library who ended up sent on his way rather than to jail.
That's not really a compliment. because they really didn't solve the issue, but thank you, community member, anyway.
Okay, James, I guess you're up.
All right. So sorry, everybody. I was a little bit late. It's kind of a big day. Make sure I'm not on mute. Yeah, kind of a big day in our household. I just dropped my daughter off at VCU a few hours ago. So she's starting off as a freshman down in Richmond, and you know, hopefully everything goes nice and smoothly. So pretty big day in our world.
Daddy nervous?
Anyway, what you say?
Is Daddy nervous?
I'm a little bit nervous, but at least it's, you know, it's a familiar place, right? Because she kind of been growing up going down to Richmond. You know, we didn't have to travel through 5 states or anything crazy, but we did a lot of crazy stuff when we were looking at colleges, you know, driving all over the place. So, and of course, there's a lot of friends from her high school and everything there. So, you know, so we'll see. Knock on wood. But anyway, as Hansel and Jeremiah kind of explained a little while ago, we participated in the Soul of Seaville event this past weekend. I'm going to try to get fancy here and show a couple things, even though I do this at work all the time. Why can't I find what I'm looking for? Here's a flyer. I don't have a bunch of, I don't have a lot of photos of us in particular, but it's really a phenomenal event. There's probably about 100 vendors at Ix Art Park, a fashion show. I don't know how many people were in attendance, but could have been about 1,000 people. And so we had a tent right at the entrance, and we had the various materials to hand out. Some people walked by, some were a little curious. We tried to talk to as many people as we could. Some folks grabbed some of our flyers and said, hey, I'm going to put this in my business. You know, and a lot of these were Black owned businesses too, that said, yeah, I'm going to put this in the front, and I want people to know about you guys. So I think it was a very good, very positive introduction into community outreach. We had a couple lessons learned. It was probably a little bit later of an event, went later than a lot of events most likely will go. I think it went to about 10 o'clock, and by about 8:15, it started getting dark. And so we didn't necessarily have the lighting, but I think some lighting, some bigger signage, and a couple other, maybe some more things we can hand out. We have a lot of material now, but one of the things we'll talk about later on is creating our own logo, because pretty much we did have bags that said Police Civilian Oversight Board, but we don't have anything that's we don't want to be separate from the city, but kind of identifies us uniquely within that city umbrella. But all in all, very positive event. This Saturday, and somebody might have presented this already, but we're going to be supporting the Back to School Bash at the downtown pavilion, and that's an opportunity for city kids to get free school supplies if they need them. So we'll be there. And then I've been doing a lot of just personally getting out in the community. I've been running with the Prolific Run Club 3 days a week, and that's probably the most diverse and phenomenal group I've ever seen in Charlottesville, of all ages. You don't have to, I encourage you guys to come out. You don't have to be a runner of any kind. You can walk the whole time. There'll be 2 or 3 people or more that'll walk with you. It's Black, white, rich, poor, old, young. I mean, it's really phenomenal. But through some of the time I've spent with that group, I've been able to talk to more and more people about our work. And they've hosted or been a part of a couple of other events. There was a West Haven Community Day a couple of weeks ago I went to, and that was really positive. Got to talk to some people there. There was also, going back into about July 18th, a health to equity day, where a lot of the different health related agencies, Region 10, the hospitals, a lot of folks were, a lot of nonprofits in the hospitals, and some of the clinics were present and talking about healthy food, healthy lifestyles. And so I got to we didn't have a PCOB table, but by being there, you know, if I can talk to people and just let them know, you know, we're here and hear what they've got to say and experiences they had, I can, you know, use those opportunities to do so. Looking at my little list here that we have, and let me see. Oh, I was going to talk about, okay, so I've got this shirt on, Love No Ego. Some of you all, I'm sure everybody's seen these logos around Charlottesville. Love No Ego. Can you guys see my screen? Oh, you probably just see me. Can you see? You can't see what I'm showing on the screen, just see me though, right? No, you see the screen?
Just you.
With the kids and
Just
everything?
you.
Just me. Oh man. Okay, hold on here, guys. Let me see. Here we go. I'm just trying to show you this. So this is a photo, of course, downtown at the pavilion at an event where Love No Ego.
Vice Chair, we
is
can't
really-
see it.
You can't see it?
No.
Oh man, what am I doing? I'm failing. I may have to get you, Ansel, to let me try one more thing here.
Are you showing the
Let me know if you
website or?
guys- Yeah, I'm just gonna put this website
Okay.
up.
There we go.
Y'all
It's-
see that? No.
Yes, we do.
You do? So you got the amphitheater and the kids and everything? Okay, great. So you guys have probably seen this logo, probably seen the van. It was founded by this gentleman over here, Freddie Jackson, local guy. He's from Buckingham, but you know, he's been doing lots of work in our entire area with youth age 10 to 24, really providing positive mentorship for youth in our area. You guys still see that, right? And not me, because I see me. So yeah, so he's working with kids on conflict resolutions, finding other ways to resolve conflict. His group provides trauma therapy. They do a lot of nature trips. They go out to the mountains. He takes kids that probably would never even get out to the Blue Ridge that often or at all. You know, to all these various beautiful sites we have within a half hour of Charlottesville. During the pandemic, they were able to provide even virtual support to youth. I know I have kids, and pandemic was hard on us as adults, but I could see it in my own household when you know, kids couldn't link up with their buddies. And so I reached out to Freddie some time ago and said, you know, I think it would be great if we could work with you and you know, host some events. And you know, the 10 to 24-year-old demographic, we want to get closer to that group, because other than Dashad, a lot of us have kids that age or older on this board. And you know, I think through all the partnerships he has, which is he's got partnerships, Love No Ego with the Boys and Girls Club, quite a few, just tons of agencies in the area. Region 10, they've even got a partnership with Wegmans where they're, you know, like I said, linking youth up with internships. And so what we'd like to do is invite Love No Ego to our next meeting and let them kind of break down all the work that they're doing and talk a little bit about a proposal that they put together for working with us for a future community event. And so so we're looking at the next meeting, which of course is in September, that second Thursday, which I think is maybe the 8th or 9th of September. Freddie's going to come to one of our meetings, and he'll give you the real presentation, not the James Watson version of this dynamic organization. But I really think that working with them would benefit us greatly, and they are a major asset to Charlottesville. I'm trying to think, do I have anything else at the moment? Where we present, this is a question, the resolution to create a logo, is that in a different part of this meeting? Or would I be making a motion for that now?
Do you have a resolution? Is it written down somewhere?
Yeah, we the good man helped me out here. Hansel did. I've got to find my copy, which
It
I
was
have.
part of the packet, and it have
Yeah.
it available if you'd like me to put it up.
I've got it in my downloads. And so There we go. Can you guys see that?
We haven't seen it yet.
No.
All right. I don't know why it's not. You're still seeing the.
The love no
stop
ego.
sharing.
Yes.
Let me stop. All right. Like I said, you wouldn't believe I do this for work all the time, but I don't use Zoom at work. I usually use Teams. Not that they're a whole lot different, but they're a little bit different. Let's see here.
Let's see if I can.
Do you see a Word doc? No. Hansel, could you
Yes, I can put it up.
display it?
No problem. I'll post it up.
Okay. All right. Is that as large as you can make it?
I can make it larger.
All right.
Want to read
So,
it?
yeah, well, can I give a one sentence background and then kind of go into it? I don't know if that's breaking the Robert's rules. Essentially, we want to create a logo for this board. You know, when you're at these events, it's a little bit awkward when you're just kind of the city, and that's all you have is a city logo. And down the road, we'd like the city residents to be able to have basically have a contest, and city residents to you know, submit designs for a logo is the long-term idea. But right now, we would need the city council to approve us to be able to have a logo created, right, under the umbrella of the city. And I know the City Parks and Rec has their own logo, and so does the fire department, which are two you know, organizations that I know have a logo other than just the city logo. So now I don't know if I'm saying this right, Robert's rules, but what I say, I move for the adoption of the following resolution. Sound right? So I move for the adoption. Huh? All right, I move for the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas the
Second. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, James. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right. So, whereas the Charlottesville City Council found it in the public's best interest to amend Chapter 2, Article 16 of the City Code to dissolve the city's Police Civilian Review Board, PCRB, and establish a Police Civilian Oversight Board in conformity with Virginia Code 9.601, and to empower the PCOB with certain additional oversight authority and duties enabled by the statute. And whereas the Charlottesville City Council established the PCOB in order to establish and maintain trust between and among the Charlottesville Police Department, the City Council, the City Manager, and the public. And whereas the board and the executive director shall engage in community outreach to seek the assistance and input of community members. And whereas the board finds that it is in the public's best interest to cement its independence by utilizing a separate logo other than the City of Charlottesville seal. And whereas a distinct PCOB logo would help solidify the rebranding of the oversight agency from the PCRB to the PCOB. And whereas the PCOB can engage the public through a citywide PCOB logo contest. And whereas it is not unprecedented for a City of Charlottesville department to have its unique logo or seal. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Charlottesville Police Charlottesville Police Civilian Oversight Board that it recommends to the City Council of Charlottesville approval of this request and authority for the PCOB to select and utilize its own logo distinct from the City of Charlottesville seal. Adopted on this 18th day of August, 2022. Right.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is
Okay, is there
there
time
any,
for discussion? I do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Who is the we, James, that you say we think that it would be good besides, I mean, who is it other members of the board or members of city council? Who is the we?
We would be us, but like you said, we haven't all had a discussion.
Which is now.
So that's the answer to that. But
Okay.
it is
Okay.
kind of odd when you're at these. I don't know if you've done any community outreach at all since you've been on this board, but when you're in person with people, it gets a little odd trying to explain you're not the police, you're not necessarily the city, but you represent the city. So we don't have our own unique, identity at this point.
Very good. The other question I would have is with this resolution, are you incorporating a dollar recognition for someone who wins or comes up with the best design? Are we as a board going to pay for that work?
Good question. As of now, my understanding, we hadn't really, maybe thought about that even, but I know time is money. I don't know if the city has any limitations, but
Absolutely. Time is money.
I personally wouldn't see. Yeah.
Well, you also, you got to remember this is.
Bill, I'm speaking, please. I haven't finished my time. I'll be glad to listen. I had one more question, is that if we create this merch for pins, logo, stickers, tote bags, maybe, water bottles, will we give a residual to the person whose design this board opted to use for future use? I mean, those are things I want to think about as we do this, because no other board or commission, like you said, it's other city departments that have developed their own distinctive logo. And I don't know of any other board or commission that has done that. I guess this will be an inaugural one for other groups to look towards doing, but make sure that we think about these things, in using somebody's work. Thank you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. That's a good point. We probably have to go back to the legal beagles, the legal people, and then figure out also if anybody has any of the history with the other logos. However, I don't think that should stop us from, because we have to get the city council to approve it, so that's going to take some time. But I think in the background, we can be figuring out, is it a one-time payment? Is it no payment? Is it, I don't imagine they're going to do a lifelong payment to somebody, but you never know. So that is a great question. No, I didn't think of
Then
that.
I hope they copyright their design so that if it's used, they get paid for it.
Yeah, Uncle?
Yeah, and I just want to say I'm committed to the notion of paying somebody for a contest. It's not unprecedented for organizations or city governments to have such. Some even at the citywide level have done their city seal, have opened it up to the public. But in most models that I have seen, it's a one-time payment and they do sign off their rights to the entity. So that's not something that I have seen a model where you will continuously pay. It would be a one-time thing that you will provide for their participation and for their selection, but you wouldn't continue to pay. But that's something that, again, that would need to be fleshed out with the legal team. I just want to say to my commitment, if the board wishes to provide compensation, which I definitely encourage you to, that I will support that.
I definitely think we would get more people submitting a logo if there's, money tied to it, because we could get literally nobody. You never know. So, that's a good incentive.
Yeah, I guess, I'm sorry, Nancy, for interrupting you. Mea culpa. Again, we should just keep in mind that this is a resolution that asks the city council for permission to move forward.
And once we get permission from the city council, it seems to me we have all the time in the world to work out the issues of whether it's a prize or there's going to be compensation. So my own personal opinion is that ought not to be an obstacle to approving this resolution.
It's something to keep in. It's definitely something to look into details, keep in mind. But like I said, as you said, I wouldn't, stop that, at least from my vote, for going in that direction. And that also ties us to the community better, because if somebody from here can create something, that kind of that links the community to the work that we're trying to do here. So
Yeah, we are not
else?
setting up to exploit anyone.
Yeah. Can't hear.
Is there any further discussion? I guess, Mr. Aguilar, would you poll the board, please?
Sure. On the motion to adopt the resolution for the creation of a logo, Member Brown,
Yes.
Member Carpenter,
I'm going to have to vote in the negative because I don't think that it's a good idea, but I don't myself fully feel like it's fully formed. So I'm going to have to say no at this time, even though I am in the minority.
Member Cooper,
Can I vote present?
so you want to abstain?
Yeah.
Okay. Member Frazier,
Yes.
Member Watson,
Yes.
and Chair Mendez.
Yes. So if my count is correct, we have 4 in favor, 1 abstention, and 1 negative. Is that correct? The motion or the resolution, I guess, is adopted. The next item that I had on the agenda was I wanted to take just a moment of your time to talk about progress and plans for moving forward with our operating procedures. So we're not a PCOB in one sense and a PPRB in the other sense. What has happened over the last month or so is that obviously we've learned a lot of lessons based on the run-up to the local pre-hearing conference. We've undergone a lot of training. We've learned about the pitfalls of receiving and treating confidential data and organizing meetings and hearings. So what I have taken upon myself, and this is a very minor part of that exercise, to look at the articles of the operating procedures dealing with hearings and to update those so that they fill some rather important gaps, like what does the hearing examiner actually do? But more importantly, I have been talking with, communicating with members of the council and the city attorney, and the suggestion that I have received on the best way forward is to leave the current version of the operating procedures in the hands of the city attorney in consultation with our council, and allow them to go through the current version that we have and identify important legal issues and to suggest changes. And the idea being that as they go through the document, we will generate what the city attorney likes to call modules, sort of sections of the operating procedures dealing with the same issues, like like the structure of the board and investigations and processing complaints and hearings and all of those things that have passed legal muster and then can be passed on to the city council for review. And the idea then being that doing it in council a lot easier than asking them to digest the whole thing in one big bite like we tried to do last spring. And I think the consensus, not that people have actually committed, but the consensus is that we could have a council-ready, legally reviewed document mid to late fall for approval by the council. Anyone who wants to, be involved in this process, give me a call, let me know. And I'll keep you posted as to, as to how things are going in our discussions with council and city attorney. Pam, do you have anything you want to add?
The only thing I would add is that whatever discussions, revisions are suggested or proposed, ultimately, if a final document is ready, it would have to be voted on and considered by the full board for any SOPs before it could become operational.
Yes, thank you. Of course, that's a foregone conclusion. We will all get to vote on these things, and I suspect, we're going to have some spirited discussions with the council and with the city attorney over what's feasible and whatever. No, thank you. Yeah. So that's all I had on the operating procedures. Are there any other issues for the good of the board before we entertain a motion to adjourn?
I do have one question, Bill, but it's not about the operating procedures. It goes back to a question for Hansel, if I could.
Sure.
Yeah. There's a login that's required for the virtual library. I mean, is that just something that's temporary, or will that always be needed?
I'm sorry, you talking about the portal or?
The publicly, well, the portal, yes, I'm sorry, the portal. It's the URL when you try to access it right now is requiring some kind of login.
For the complaints portal, if you want to be able to track, one of the features of the complaints portal should be able to track your the progress of your complaint. And if you register through the system, you'll give your tracking number and you'll be able to check your status on that way. You can always contact us, but that way you could bypass that system by just registering it and being able to put that tracking number yourself.
And what about that SharePoint library? Is that open to the public, or is that
was
private?
Designed for the board members? I have no issue if you want to put it in the training. I started to create a training session on the website, and I can, if you want me to put it there, that's not an issue for me. It was more of in terms of capacity and what we were going to have the interns do this summer. So right now it was designed for the board members to access through Microsoft Teams. The one thing that I would need to check on the legality of that book, because of the copyright issues. I don't want to publish somebody's work and make it publicly available without having the legal right to do so.
Okay, thank you. I was just trying to make it a little bit clearer, for any community members that might be out there listening to us on whatever platform. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Actually, I proposed a model and I don't know if it's being considered at the city level, but I spoke with the city manager. Other jurisdictions have a system where you can take different trainings on FOIA, on Robert's Rules of Orders, and you get a certificate, and then you go, that allows for the city council to know, okay, this person is invested in serving on a board and commission. I would like to create a system like that, and definitely having this training up there so the community members at large can access these resources and be informed if they ever want to be a part of the board in the future.
Yeah, I think some of this should probably be publicly accessible. Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Chair, I believe there's one more remaining public comment section before we adjourn.
Oh, I forgot. That is correct. Uncle, yeah.
Mr. Aguilar, you're on mute.
Sorry, sir. I just want to make a quick reminder, and I meant to make it in the announcements at the beginning. Just when we ever reschedule the board meetings, the third Thursday, and I didn't catch it earlier, but the third Thursdays is reserved for the Office of Human Rights. So right now we're competing with their meeting. So just be mindful of that. And I didn't catch it earlier, but I wanted to remind you. But thank you, Chair Mendez. If you'd like to speak to the board, the PCOB about any topic, please click the raise hand icon in the Zoom webinar. If you're joining us via telephone, press *9. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes. Please share your place of residence when you begin. We have one member. 1 second. Okay, Adrian Dent, you are on with the board. Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You have
Okay,
3
excellent.
minutes.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to say, well, before I forget, Mr. Mendez, the last section, your audio is unclear. And I think I got the gist of what you were saying, but the transcript, even the live transcript, seemed to not be capturing everything in full detail, just to bring that to your awareness. I also wanted to say it was great to see who I did see. I think it was Mr. Aguilar and one of the interns at the Soul of Seville. Yeah, so I had a question about the officer interaction card. And I understand from the press release that the community members can request this card. And I heard tonight that the goal with that was facilitating the process for the community, like to have accountability. And I think it's unrealistic given the power dynamic that and the lack of public awareness that anybody is going to request a card, an officer interaction card, and fill it out. And so I'm wondering if you would discuss and consider seriously putting the onus on the officer to fill out their name and maybe the report number if there is one, and to offer the card to a civilian and make that, I guess, mandatory. I don't know if that's within your power or not, but I appreciate your time tonight and thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry about the audio. I've been having trouble all night.
Would anybody else from the public like to address the board at this time? Chair Mendez, I don't see any other hands. If I may, though, about the community members' comment, if I may just make a remark, that is definitely within the board authority to provide a recommendation to that extent. Right now, the cards, they were sort of in the pilot phase. We were trying to provide that opportunity for the community members and for the officers to be able to have that piece, that formal piece of being able to provide the information. But if you would like for that to be implemented by the police department in a more formal matter, that is something within your ability to provide recommendations on their policy. So that's something that you may consider. So I just want to make that clarification to the public and to the board.
Thank you. It's definitely something we will consider. If there are no other comments or questions, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Aguilar?
Member Brown,
Yes.
Member Carpenter,
Yes.
Member Cooper,
Yes.
Member Frazier,
Yes.
Vice Chair Watson,
Yes.
Chair Mendez.
Yes. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Thanks, everyone.